Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. My name is Robert Zupko. I am a digital photography and computer art teacher here at Ocean Township High School, of which I'll talk nothing about. I'm going to talk about my life as a chicken tender. Recently, about 3 years ago, 6 chickens came into my life, my wife and our lives. So I'm going to teach you tonight, I guess, a little bit about the basics of what it means and how to go about owning chickens, because that's why you're all here, I'm sure. But also, more important than that fact are those facts, what I've learned and continue to learn from owning chickens. First, as a chicken father, I've come to learn or notice more how pervasive chickens are in our lives, all the pop culture references that we really don't even second guess whether it's related to food or entertainment. Much of our food is entertainment at this point. But there's so many euphemisms, there's so many sayings, and it's interesting to learn when people ask or comment how unusual it is to own chickens, or they're like, that's kind of strange. I think that's more in the past, I would say, generation or two. Roughly in the past decade, owning chickens, or they're referred to as urban chickens or backyard chickens, has become much more popular. And I'll tell you a little bit about why that is. First of all, if you look at the image on the left, are a series of chickens wearing chicken sweaters. And they actually they make these, people do this as, I guess, a double hobby, as well as leashes for chickens, both of which are terrible. So I don't endorse these, and I just want to advise you right off the bat not to do this. This actually inhibits the chicken's ability to self-regulate, and this is kind of how we can like project on our pets. It applies to chickens as well, so please don't do that. But this is how it came about. This is my father-in-law and Henrietta on his shoulder. And the urban chicken, again, backyard chickens, is synonymous, came about a long time ago, and by this I mean this refers to chickens raised in residential areas on a very small scale. So my wife and I currently have 6 chickens. It's associated now with the sustainability movement, getting connected to where your food comes from, also being able to more readily and how should I say this, holistically control where we get our food. A lot of our food comes from overseas, right? Some vegetables. Our animals, our food source, meat as a source of food, may travel across the country, such as really increasing our carbon footprint. So this actually began as a movement during the First and Second World War, where people started to really, on a small scale, raise their own gardens and animals for their own food. And then in the 60s and 70s, community gardening really became a bigger fad. More recently, the expansion of the poultry industry has caused a lot of concern by many groups and many, again, local citizens, such as my wife and I, to consider where we get our food and the practices that are done to raise such food. The interbreeding of different species has caused this concern for disease and meat that is actually not healthy for us to eat. So sustainability is a big reason that this trend has come about. So it's very pragmatic in that sense. There are a lot of myths about chickens. As soon as someone learns that you own chickens, they do ask a lot of questions, such as where, how does the egg thing work? So hopefully I can answer those. If you do have any questions, please, I can see a few of you. There's 4 people in the audience as far as I know. Please let me know, or just yell out chicken tender, and I'll turn my ear your way. First, chickens are dirty and smelly. Chickens spend hours a day preening and cleaning themselves. Chickens are not, they're relatively odor-free. It's animal waste that smells, right? Not chickens. Chickens hurt property values. Maybe people don't want to live near, a family that owns 6 chickens. There are no statistics that back up this fact, and honestly, most chicken owners are proud and really enjoy taking care of their chickens, and I'll show you some examples of that in a little bit. Chickens are noisy. Has anybody ever heard a rooster crow? Like few people maybe in the audience? Yeah, okay, thanks. Some of you may have, and it has that association with being very loud. A dog at 1 yard is about 70 to 100 decibels. A chicken crowing at the same distance is about 48. So they are, not as loud as your average dog. Chickens require a lot of land. This is not the case. You don't need acres of land to own chickens. Technically, their chickens need about 10 square feet in their enclosure, in what's called the run. And in the coop, they need about 4 square feet. This, I guess, theater here would be enough for more chickens than you would ever want at one time. I guess I don't know how many chickens you guys want at one time. Chickens attract rodents and pests. There's vermin, there's rodents and pests all over the place. Chickens don't attract them any more than any other pet. And chickens are only kept for egg production, so limits on flock size should be calculated by the number of eggs a family needs. My wife and I got chickens for a variety of reasons, and I would think I would put pets at the top of the list. But people have chickens for various reasons. For the eggs, people are raising chickens strictly to raise their own organic meat, so they'll eventually process them. Not too far from here, I don't know, has anybody ever been to the 4-H fair, the fairgrounds in Freehold? Freehold's not that far, right? But it's like another world away, and they actually have shows where you can bring in your best homegrown zucchini or chicken. And show them and win prizes for this. It's like a link to our past that I feel like we currently lack. There's actually, I haven't seen this yet, but there's actually a DVD that came out called Chicken People, about people who raise chickens just to show. Wasn't the Westminster Choir Kennel show not too long? No, Westminster Dog Show was not too long ago. People do this with chickens as well. I don't. Chickens have been around a very long time. First domesticated about 6,000 BC. 4,000 years later, flocks of them moved to India and eventually became what we now know today as Gallus domesticus, right? We all know chickens as that. The bird is a male. Adult is called a rooster. The female is called hen, right? They are both not some sort of odd third gender here, okay? There's hens and roosters. And we can talk about, again, a little bit more about eggs and how baby chickens are made. Pullets are young hens under 1 year of age. And chickens are also touted as being the closest relative to the T-Rex. Interesting. All right. These are actual chickens. These are not Muppets. But there's so many exotic breeds out there. I had no idea. You've probably seen a red chicken, a white chicken, a golden chicken, right? The one at the top left is actually called a silkie, which, again, of our 6, I'll tell you a little bit more about, but we actually have one of the top left. And the one on the right side, I believe, is referred to as a Polish hen. I don't know why. But here are our ladies, just so you can get to know them a little bit better. On the left is Prestige Worldwide, Gloria, Henrietta, Peppercorn, Rogue. And this one we have come to refer to as Hoot. My father-in-law, who I showed you earlier, actually named her. I prefer to think of her as furniture because that's what she closely resembles. She just kind of stands there. Yeah, very interesting bird, but we do love them all. This is a little bit close-up shot I thought I'd share of Prestige with you. Very, very entertaining. So what do you do? How do you go about raising chickens? It's about this time of year, a lot of, well, I wouldn't say a lot of stores, but again, more towards Freehold, there are some farm-related stores where you can order. They have live chicks. You can purchase them when they're 1 to 2 weeks old. You keep them in a brooder, which is just a heated box of some kind, for about several months. And then they become what you see in the, whoops. What did I just do? Thank you. They become what you see in that, what was in the upper right, which is called, again, a pullet. It's kind of basically a teenage chicken. Go forward in time here. Thank you. There are chickens again. All right. So I'll tell you a little bit about what you would need if you were to go about owning them. Housing. Part of the fun of owning chickens is you can build or do a lot of the work yourself, which as Mr. Ippolito was talking about today's growing trends in technology, there has been this kind of counter trend. This is part of why people raise chickens, to kind of do something hands-on and to get back to, again, a closer, sustainable connection to our food, nature in general. So a lot of these are built by the owners themselves. You could also build your own, buy your own coop and run. The one on the left you can order online like everything else, Amazon, right? And these, let's see, this one over here probably holds 3 to 4 chickens. This is the coop where they sleep at night, where they lay their eggs. And this is what's called the run, where they'll be out during the day if you don't want to let them roam free in your yard, which is a good idea to not do if you're not home. But there's some really beautiful, innovative work being done. Again, if you like to tinker, especially with wood, this can be an addictive hobby. This is ours. The coop on the left, again, this is where the chickens sleep at night, and this is where they lay their eggs. We just purchased this, and I built the run, which you see on the right there. So if you look right up here, you see Rogue on the little roost we added. And you can accessorize all kinds of ways. I've collected driftwood over the years. We've made roosts for them, which they hop on during the day. I'll talk a little bit more about how entertaining that is. But if you look at this image here, you see there's Hoot in her little doorway. And if you look above it, there's a chicken cam. And I'm just going to bring out my cell phone and pass it around. But we can currently watch what they're up to right now. Or anytime if you're interested, just ask. Although I don't have my cell phone on me currently. Then we also, again, incorporating technology. We have an electric door that has a sensor on it. So when the sun goes down, the door closes them and keeps them safe at night. And that's them on their roost. They like to, when they're sleeping, get up off the ground, which basically mimics like a tree limb. So whenever, or wherever they were in the wild, back 6,000 years ago, BC in China, to hide from predators, they would get up off the ground. So that's instinctive on their part. I taught them nothing. I can't take credit for that. Also in the coop, you need nesting boxes. So when they go to lay their eggs, they instinctively, sometimes my wife and I will let them out in the yard, and they'll instinctively just disappear. Take off, trot, go into the nesting box to lay their eggs. This is actually, referring back to, again, Mr. Ippolito's talk. You could download plans and go to a 3D printer, build yourself a nesting box that way, or do it yourself. Here's a commercial one that houses about 3 or 4 chickens at a time. And they lay their eggs and they roll down into this little bin to get collected. How often do chickens lay eggs? I'll tell you that in a little bit. But again, people get very creative. They like their privacy, as we all would, I guess, if we were in the same situation. So they put blinds in front of it, and there's another example. So a lot of the nesting boxes with chickens are on the coop. And at any point in time, you can access them in most designs by lifting from the outside, so you don't have to go inside the coop when they're done laying to collect the eggs. Food and water, very simple. Again, chickens are very simple to maintain. You have to buy a feeder, and you can buy a water, again, online or at some local stores. But a lot of people, one of the joys of doing this is to make a lot of the materials yourself. So you can buy these little devices that can go on the bottoms of buckets or in PVC pipe. And they almost train themselves really to drink from. Now I digress. Pets can be taken to the extreme, correct? Just like I've seen some cats and dogs being pushed around in baby carriages from time to time. I mean, maybe they're injured, maybe they're not. But some people will bring chickens indoors. But I ask this question of you, is that where do you think chickens poop? Anywhere they want, right? So they came up with, if you look at the image on the left, that's a red polka dot chicken diaper, which again is not a healthy thing to put on, and again, as you can see, looks ridiculous. There's a silky chicken there in a little pet tray, and of course, a celebrity accessorizing with a chicken. Chickens, again, this is my own personal belief. We don't bring them inside, and I would advise against it. All right, one of the more entertaining facts, chicken behavior. Chickens are, and this is, I'm entering now my third year of being a chicken tender, way more entertaining than I anticipated. However, when you take care of them, they also like to be entertained. It makes sense. They're social creatures. If you look at the image on the left, they make chicken swings. They like you can take little containers, poke holes in it, put little treats in it. They need to be occupied during the day, or they can, much like any of us, I guess, get into trouble, right? They also entertain us to no end. These are a few things that I never went to chicken parent school, but the average person doesn't know about. Chickens need to dust bathe and sunbathe. So this is 2 pictures of them doing that. And now to answer a few questions about eggs. This is one of the reasons my wife and I got chickens, but not the primary one. But this is part of the surprise, part of the joy is going to see if a chicken has laid an egg. Chickens mature and start laying at about 6-7 months, depending on the breed. And at their peak, I guess between years 1, 2, maybe up to 3, they can lay up to 1 egg per day, again, during the spring. They stop in the winter when they get a little bit more uncomfortable, or they start losing their feathers, or what's commonly known as molting. But a misconception about eggs is that you need a rooster with the hens to somehow stimulate them to lay the eggs. And unfortunately, as the saying goes, hens need a rooster like a fish needs a bicycle. Roosters are obsolete, so to speak. And in fact, when you go to own chickens, they guarantee the gender about 97 or 98%, because roosters can actually harm the hens, through the process of mating. They do provide some protection, but hens will lay eggs no matter what, unfertilized eggs. So you do not need a male present to get lots and lots of eggs. And if you look at do we have 6 there? Different breeds will lay different color eggs. But you don't see blue or green eggs in the store, right? And it's simply because through the years, the industry has learned that people do not want to eat a green egg. But they're all the same on the inside. So in summary, I'd like to say a few things about what I've learned in the past 3 years that chickens have taught me. That's Henrietta. Anytime you crouch down, she finds a way to hop up on your back. They like, again, to roost, sometimes on you. So chickens are kept for many reasons. Again, you might, as I said earlier, wonder why someone would want to do it. For us, mainly as pets. They supposedly eat ticks, but I didn't get Lyme's disease until last spring after we've had chickens for a few years, so I wouldn't rely on that. Free fertilizer. Let's see, we have 6 chickens currently, and they create about 6 ounces of waste per day. Free fertilizer, as opposed to a dog or a cat that produces, your average dog produces about 12 ounces of waste, non-compostable waste a day. And I know this is the most interesting fact, how much the average pet waste is produced. Chickens are individuals. They have personalities of their own, and it's interesting to see how they interact with you and interact with each other. I kind of skimmed over the social hierarchy, but you can tell the pecking order very clearly as they mature. There is an alpha hen. They pick on the one beneath them and all the others and all the others, and unfortunately, Prestige Worldwide is at the bottom of that list. So she doesn't get the top choice of where she gets to sleep at night. It can be very much like a middle school kind of lunchroom table. It's unfortunate, but the way things work. Through owning chickens, I have become more mindful, more aware of where our food comes. My wife does a much better job of this. And as I say in one of my next points, I'm still an omnivore. I do still eat meat, but I try to make more conscious choices of where that meat comes from. The treatment of animals, how animals are raised, how they're euthanized, and then how they're ultimately processed and put basically as a food source for us. There's more awareness of this now, I think, in our culture, right? People are making better decisions. Unfortunately, the demand for chickens as food, they themselves, through the meat or the eggs they produce, is always increasing. But I'm going to give you, or I'll show you up here actually at the bottom, a link. There is a brand called Bell & Evans that actually raises their animals. They have a free range throughout their lifetime until they are culled, as it's called, until they are put down. But they're euthanized humanely. So we're making progress as a culture, I hope, in this direction. I love spending time outside, and I find myself feeling incredible guilt if it's not pouring rain or terribly cold with sitting inside while the chickens are kind of in their run. They have plenty of room, but they love to free range. So when you see images of chickens being kept in small cages when they're raised, in the larger industry, it's very hard to ignore. That, again, I can be an alpha male. It's not just linked to me, but when my wife and I walk around our yard, they just kind of travel around and follow us. It's kind of makes you feel very loved and alpha-like. I mentioned still being an omnivore, but a wiser consumer. I've enjoyed building things for them, both the coop and the run. And again, as that picture shows, it does teach you to slow down, as pets can. Especially when you're outside and watching their behaviors, it brings you, as the last speaker was discussing, again, a little bit more present, a little bit more in the moment. And of course, don't plan on naming something if you plan on eating it. My wife and I are not eating our chickens. They are pets. Some people do raise them. We actually had a neighbor who raised them to eat. We had a neighbor who did that, but that's not our intention at all. If you want any further resources, if you're curious about this, I just put them up here. You can take a picture with your phone, or of course, you know where to find me. I do still work at the high school here, right across the way. And thank you very much for your time. I hope I taught you a little something about chickens.